I wanted to thank Sean and Stacy Anderson, the owners of 7-Eleven, for sponsoring lunch today. Come up and just introduce themselves and their business really quick. That would be great.
Just a little bit about us. I'm born and raised in Spanish Fork. My maiden name's Archuleta. I worked for 7-Eleven for 20 years and found out that they were buying that corner here in town and went, okay, I think it's time to pull the trigger and go ahead and become a franchisee and stop working for the man. So we opened just about 3 years ago. We celebrate our anniversary on the 7/7/2019 is when we opened, right? So
2020.
2020. So we'll be celebrating 3 years this July. And just super grateful to be a part of this community and to be able to, thrive in a community I grew up in. Let my husband tell you a little bit about himself.
So just compounding on what she already said, she worked for 7-Eleven for 20 years. I had a high-profile sales job. We were both on the road all the time, traveling, 2 young kids, and it just got too much. Realized that we'd have a lot more autonomy and free time to be parents and to enjoy each other when we work 2 miles from home. We can be a better part of our kids and their schooling and their extracurricular activities. And still make more money than when we were traveling on the road every single week. So definitely a quality of life change, and a lot of you guys know as soon as you're a business owner, you're married to the job, but you definitely have a lot of freedom in your choices. So a little bit about 7-Eleven. We're trying to do it different, guys. If you guys have been in 7-Elevens, they kind of got a bad stigma for being a little bit dirtier, a little bit outdated. Sometimes they smell funny. We don't want that. So, but more so than just having a clean stock store, we're also very prideful in creating an experience. So if you guys come in, oftentimes I know your name. If I don't know your name, it's because you didn't fill out your 7 rewards and put your name on your app, okay? Because when that pops up on my screen, it burns in my brain, and I literally know everybody's name. So come in.
Tell us about the food too, like how much our food was and all that stuff.
Oh, okay. She wants me to talk about the food a little bit. We got a promo on the pizzas. The pizzas with veggies are going to be $1 more than the pizzas without. You can get right now a $9 deluxe pizza. It's going to have 7 meat. It's going to have fire roasted peppers and onions, $9. And it cooks from frozen to piping hot in about 2 minutes at our store. So you could probably get one of those ovens in your house if you want. They're about $13,000. So yeah, come talk to me. And then the wing promo, you can get any 5 bone-in wings for $5 if you have the app. We have 3 different kinds of wings. We've got traditional roasted. There's going to be no spice, not really any seasoning, a little bit of salt, just your traditional wing that you can add sauce to if you want. We've got a buffalo wing and then a spicy breaded wing. So by all means, you guys are in a pinch for lunch, come down. It's quick, it's fast, it's delicious. So anything else you want me to talk about?
That's it.
We appreciate you guys letting us be a part of this.
Thank you.
And I can personally attest to that he remembers my name. He remembers what I do every time I stop in there. And isn't that so great about Spanish Fork? Like, we're growing like crazy, but there's still places, corner gas stations that you can stop and people know your name. So that's amazing. So now I want to present our main speaker for today, Jason Crowther. He's the owner of Biz Merchant Services. He helped the chamber to get all of our payment processes streamlined. If you guys have paid an invoice online, that's because of Jason. If you paid for lunch online, that's because of Jason. So he's really helped to streamline those processes for us and saved us a lot of credit card fees. So here is Jason.
One of the things we, as the board of directors with the chamber, have decided we'd like to do moving forward with some of these presentations is make sure that they are informative. Less infomercial kind of concept, right? So we're not getting up here and just selling you on what I have. And really what we want you guys to take away from this is some knowledge that can be applied to your own business by the time you take off from here. And then in the process, hopefully have some time to network and get to mix and mingle and so forth, get some names, share some contact information and whatnot. Now, so let's go right into it. Let me ask you this real fast. Raise your hand if you have a business that takes credit cards. Okay, the vast majority. The vast majority do. Now, of those that raise their hands, how many of you think you're getting ripped off? Oh, that's what I would thought I would see. Okay, I'll tell you this. Here's something that's interesting. Any of you that have credit cards, or any of you have, do any of you have a brother-in-law, uncle, cousin that's doing it for you? Because when I find those deals, those ones always are the worst rate ever. Just the word. It's super surprising. Everyone blows their mind. I'll tell you this. I'm going to educate you some things on the industry that I learned the hard way, so that you guys, regardless of what you choose to do, you can go back and hopefully make some improvements on your own business. Okay. What I found is, and what got me into the industry is with one of my other businesses, I was paying a fortune, and it wasn't until I realized I paid over $100,000 in processing fees that I said, "This is bull. What's going on here?" And I reached out to the banks and the processors and said, "Hey, can you take a look at this? Because I'm paying a fortune." And they said, "You bet." They came back and said, "We can knock this down $50 a month. This is going to be like," they acted like it was Christmas morning. And I said, "Well, okay, I don't know what to expect," so I took it. Year later, I'm doing taxes like we are getting ready to do right now, going through that line item on my P&L, and I noticed the same thing. I'm like, dang, this is still high. So I call them up again and say, "Hey, can we look at this again?" And they say, "Well, okay." They come back to me a month later, and they did the exact same thing. "We can knock this down $50. And they also acted like it was Christmas morning. And I was just kind of floored by this, so I started researching it. And it was about a 2-year process that it took to kind of break into the industry, because it's kind of the good old boys club in some aspects. And was able to switch my own company over, and through that process learned a ton. And here's what I've learned. When it comes to credit card processing, when you guys look at your processing statement, how many of you have on the last page have a full page of fees? Like it's anywhere from 10 to 50 items there listed with fees. Now, when someone's creating a credit card account or a merchant account, this is legit. And I get a lot of push from this, from people in my industry, just so you know. But I want to be the difference here. And I want to be someone that makes a change here. When we're creating those accounts, we literally have like 30 line items where we can go in and name it whatever we want. We can assign it a fee, a rate, a percentage, just a flat amount. And we can name it something fun like network fee, internet connection, filing fee, batch fee. We can call it whatever we want to call it, to be honest with you, and make it so that it's just a set amount. And so what happens is there's a lot of merchants, and probably in this room, that probably have anywhere from hundreds to several hundred, anywhere from 100 to maybe several $100 that are just flat fees every single month that they're paying. I'll tell you, most of it, depending on how you process, is total bogus. Total bogus. There's only a couple of fees that exist that are really mandatory. There's maybe up to, depending on how you process, if you're high risk and so forth, maybe as many as 5. But it can be as low as 0, depending on how you process, also, literally. Those are all factors, high risk, low risk, and so forth, depending on what kind of business you got. Now, for those of you that are kind of curious as far as what is credit card processing, what happens, there's a whole slew of things that take place in a matter of just a quick second, right? When you swipe that card, it comes back and says decline, fraud, suspected fraud, or approved, right? That whole process is talking to like 5 different people, 5 different organizations in just a quick second. Does anybody have any questions on that? I had a whole slide that was cool that kind of showed you how it went and all this kind of fun stuff. And it was going to be really great, and now it's just like, So when it comes to some of the hard truths, let's discuss that for a second. Has anyone, well, you probably actually don't want to, probably don't even want to actually say this if you do. But when it comes to the match list or the TMF list. Has anybody ever heard of that? No? Okay, you're in for a treat. So for those of you that are doing credit card processing, you're going to want to know about the match list and the TMF list, okay? TMF it's basically what it is a terminated list of merchants, okay? And it got put together, is that because it's close to this? It got put together so that they could share amongst all credit card processors. Here's what happens, you guys. If you're put on that list, this is very serious. You will never, ever get a credit card merchant account again, ever. If you do, for some crazy reason, and I have actually seen a company do it, they were able to get one, but they had a phenomenal rate at 9%. 9% of every dollar they had to pay in fees, plus 75 cents per transaction on every transaction, plus they had to put 25% of their monthly volume in an account. Okay? That was, in this particular case, was $250,000. So, here's something to be aware of. When it comes to the Squares, which Square's great, they have some great products. When it comes to the Stripes, the PayPals and so forth, these are not considered real processors or traditional banks in the business world. Let me ask you, for those that might have some of these, do you get a merchant statement each month? You do not. Well, you do it because you have a real merchant account, because you're working with a real bank. These guys, they don't produce merchant statements. CPAs hate them, okay? And they play by a different set of rules. And what I mean by that is this. About half of my clients have come from some of these others that I just mentioned. And the reason why is because they will commonly just freeze your account. The different set of rules is they do not have to tell you why either. They can just do it. And it can be something as simple as they didn't like the way that you're doing business. Or they had 3 complaints come in about your business or your practices, and they don't want to be associated with it anymore. Or one that I heard recently, you share the same building as a firearms dealer. Okay? And we don't want anything to do with firearms, but you're in the same building, so we're canceling it. And they don't give you warning. You're just done. Here's the problem. They can also put your name on the match list, which makes it very, very, very difficult. And when that time comes, people will go from swiping a credit card to get paid to, hey, I can only accept cash or check. Is that cool with you? You down with that? Because that's all I can do. Or you can sometimes still get away with getting like a PayPal or Venmo. Who likes Venmo? Venmo's good. I just going through my wife's Venmo statement, and it's ridiculous for our taxes this year. We're definitely getting audited. Let me tell you that. Yeah. And so something to be very, very aware of is when it comes to messing around with your merchant account, please, if you take anything from this, take that very, very seriously. Do not blow that off. If there's problems, you make sure that you get it addressed right away as well, because it can literally be one of those things that will ruin a business if you're in the business of taking income or money through a transaction, okay? One other thing I noticed is the last year or so, I've had a handful of clients come, well, more than that, quite a few clients have come that are wanting to leave certain banks because obviously they want to get a better rate. Here's the problem. For those of you that might have something like a Square, Stripe, or PayPal, they do a phenomenal job watching what you're doing, watching the volume that comes in. And what happens is they say, hey, this company has $250,000 coming in every single month. I don't know what their expenses are, but I'm confident they got money coming in, so let's go ahead and offer them a loan. A loan for $50,000. They'll send you an email saying, you're already approved, you're good to go. All you got to do is sign this, and the 50 grand's yours. If you get one of those, please just do me a favor and research your other options if you need working capital, okay? Please do, for your own sake. What happens in those, and no one ever reads the fine print, like nobody. What happens with those is you get tied in to processing with them and you can't leave. And if you do leave, the loan is now, you've breached contract, the loan is now due in full, kind of thing. And so the other problem to that is they know they've now got you tied in because you will never pay that off, ever. It'll be just like other credit cards where you just kind of continue to pay it for the next 25 years, right? Until you do some kind of consolidation or something. And so they know they've got you, and so the rates with those same clients is kind of interesting how every couple of years they kind of go up and up and up. So please do me a favor and just avoid that with like a plague, because I haven't seen that be beneficial for a single person ever. Now, how many businesses are just a simple terminal? Swipe the card, collect the fees, right? And collect the, okay? Super easy. Those are the simplest thing all day long. How many of you have software though? It's called POS, point of sale, okay? Software is a phenomenal thing, and it's so needed, and it does some great services for us because now, as many of you know then, it's tying in all aspects, not just collecting the payment, but it's now doing client data, right? Collection as well. It's doing scheduling sometimes it's doing all kinds of other features in terms of marketing in addition, and they can get really, really fancy. It's awesome. And my specialty is the software side of things. I do not represent a single company. I make zero benefit from any software. I stayed independent intentionally. Most people in the industry will represent one bank, one processor, and one software, and they'll just target that industry nonstop, and they'll just try to find a way to make sure that you just kind of fit into this box. And what I found that I liked doing is it's just a lot more fun when you can just say, hey, what are your needs? Let's get you what you need. Because there is an unlimited amount of software out there, and there's all kinds of avenues to get a hold of it. And so I'll tell you this, if you ever are looking for new software, and this has nothing to do, whether you want to use, it doesn't even matter, you don't even use any of my services. Give me a call and tell me what it is you need, and I can help you. I've got all kinds of incredible software as well that helps me find what you're needing. And I can give you some direction and some guidance as far as these would be some phenomenal softwares for you to consider looking at. And then you guys can just go make your decision from there, and you can still just do your own thing with the processing and everything else. That's not a problem. But it's amazing how the right POS system can revolutionize your business, free up so much time, increase your profitability, your management capabilities with both employees and with your clientele. Those are big factors. Those are all big factors. So if that's ever a thing, please, I'd be happy to help you with that. Let me go through here. Okay. When it comes to processing options, hopefully this will be some value for some of you. So a lot of softwares that you might pick up, basically when you look at the pricing option, it's generally going to be this. They'll have a set fee, they'll have a set rate, and a set per transaction amount, right? And generally it's not super great. You just kind of pick because that's the cost of doing business if you want that software. Now, when it's like that, it's generally because they only have one bank they're working with and they've set up some kind of deal. It's usually called rev share. The vast majority of the softwares that use something like, for example, Stripe, and it's exclusive, what happens is the reason why the pricing is so high is because the software company contracts with Stripe that a percentage of all the transaction fees coming through gets kicked back to the software company. So here's what happens. And I was guilty of this myself. I paid into this for years, like 14 years with one of my other companies. And what happens is the software company was actually making more every month off of my transactions than they were off of what I was paying them each month for the actual software. And that's very, very common. And so one thing that you want to do is you want to look for software that has dual integration, meaning it can be separated from a exclusive processor, exclusive bank. If you have that capability, you will save money in the long run for your business, long term and short term. It's a win-win every single time, Because it puts not only the software company in a position where they know that you could leave them if they don't continue to do a great job, and it puts the bank that's processing for you in an even worse position because they know you've got lots of options and you can go other places, okay? And so that allows your rates to stay very, very good. I will tell you, for those that didn't raise their hand when they said they've got a great rate, I was doing some math last night for this, and it's with my own with everything that I've seen, I would say that it's about 2 in around 20. For about every 20 businesses and owners that I sit down with, only about 2 actually have a really great rate that I'd say, this is actually pretty good. And I'll tell them, this is actually pretty good. You can, I wouldn't blame you if you just stay right where you're at. I can still beat it, but this is actually really good. You should be proud of yourself for having such a good rate. That's about where it's at. And it blows my mind because everyone always thinks, anyways, they think they have something phenomenal when really they don't. But it's just a side of business that a lot of people don't think about, and they don't realize that they're throwing away anywhere from 1 to 4% of their total annual gross income for the business away every year. They just don't see it. When it comes to processing, there are so many different varieties though. We can literally put together, if you use a traditional bank, okay, you can literally have the abilities to build it however you want, as long as we meet PCI, the governing body's requirements of it. And so you can do flat rate, where it's just a flat percentage rate every time. You can do interchange plus, which is generally the best. That's generally going to be your best option. Let me ask you this. When it comes to Visa, does anybody know Visa alone has over 400 interchange rates? And what that means is this. So Todd and I, we could walk into the same gas station. We'll walk into 7-Eleven. We'll buy the exact same 7 meats pizza together. He buys one, I buys one. You guys are going to pay, so 7-Eleven, you guys are going to pay a different amount on the processing. Your fees will be different with Todd and with myself. Because even though we use the exact same kind of card maybe, so might have even been from the same bank, they're going to likely be different because of all slew of variables. Visa alone has over 400 different interchange rates. MasterCard, Discover, American Express, those 3 combined, there's over 1,200. And so it can get kind of crazy. So interchange rate, interchange plus is basically where they say whatever the interchange rate is for that type of card, which is tied to business, risk, and so forth, and industry. So the school districts get a really great rate. If you're anything in green environmentalist stuff gets really great rates. If you are coming from a gun manufacturing, gun selling, porn, crypto, any of those, you've got terrible rates. Especially even if you have a card that represents that company, even you just going and buying stuff, you're not going to have a great rate. Your interchange rates could be higher. And so it can vary just on that alone. And so one of the things we can do is we always will look at how do you do business, how many transactions a month do you have, what are the volumes, what type of cards are coming through, is it a lot of American Express, rewards cards, or is it just simple debit cards? We can look at all those things and we can customize it to make sure that you are saving a massive amount of money oftentimes throughout the year. Okay. Oh, here's something that might be of interest. There's also, in addition to traditional and interchange, flat rate, and then customizations and so forth, there's also a very common one that's a popular one that's coming out called cash discount. And that's basically, and it's for some, it really irritates them. And I get it, I actually do. And for others, they love it. It really just kind of comes down to how do you do business? And so that's a big factor here. Cash discount processing is basically this. You come to my business for a service and goods or a product and so forth. You're going to pay me $10 for that. Instead of me paying the processing fee, the customer pays the processing fee if they choose to use a credit card or a debit card, doesn't matter, if it's a card, period. Or they can avoid the processing fee and pay with cash or check, okay? That's basically the gist of it. And it arrived because a lot of business owners like yourselves started to say, I don't have a problem with someone paying me with cash or check. Why am I forced to lose anywhere from 2 to 4% of my income every year as a convenience that I'm happy with the cash or check? And so they got really frustrated with this and put some pressure on it, and eventually the industry did accept it, and now it's actually pretty prevalent. I'd say it's between 50 to 60% of my clients are switching to it. And I'll tell you, I do think in probably the next 5 years, you'll probably see a very large percentage of businesses processing that way. So it's just kind of coming down the pipeline. Any questions on that? If anyone, please, yeah.
At what point do customers say, I'm sick of these fees with this business, I'll just go to another business?
You totally can do that. And they understand that. But here's what happens is some of them say, especially lately with the economy the way that it is, right, inflation and so forth, I've seen a lot of companies say, I've got to do something. I got to either raise my rates or I've got to kind of change to this fashion. And several of them have said, I'm going to get pushed either way. I'm either going to raise the cost of my services or goods, customers are going to complain, maybe go somewhere else, or I give them the option to increase it based off of this type of card, or they don't have to. They can still pay the original price that we've always been doing the last several years and just with cash or check. And some of that's the reason that some of them gone to. But you're absolutely right, 100%. You can go anywhere you want. It's still a free country in that regard. And some of them will. I will tell you, with my experience, the vast majority don't, but it's totally your choice as a consumer, totally. Okay, let's see here, I'm almost done. Here's some things, for those of you that want to take any kind of notes, take away something from this. Here's something I would recommend that you jot down that your processor should be providing to you, okay? For starters, transparency. They should give you zero push if you ask them all kinds of questions in regards to what are these fees for, what do they represent, okay? Also, you can ask them any kind of detailed aspect of that. Where does your income come from? I get that all the time. I have no problem addressing that. Number two, they should be saving you money. Every now and then, sometimes they don't because you just want the software that comes with it, and they say that's the cost of doing business, and I get that. But they should have a guarantee of savings, and if they can't show that to you in black and white, that's also a concern because those are the ones I see all of a sudden jump up quick. Number three, I would avoid contracts. It's getting very, very popular that they want to tie you into anywhere from a 3 to 7 year contract right out of the gate. If that's your only option, then you do what you got to do as a business owner. I understand that. But I strongly encourage you, because I run into this seriously daily, where people are stuck in contracts because they didn't realize how bad they had it until it was already too late, okay? There's really no reason they should be doing a contract with you other than a couple of very small reasons. And that would be, for example, I do zero contracts. The only time I will do a contract is if the company wants me to pay a lot of money for their hardware. If I'm paying for their hardware, covering a lot of cost, then yes, I'll do a contract with them so I have enough time to recoup that. but generally they should not have a contract. They should be able to simplify your processes and make your work environment a little easier. There should be some value added there. Let's see here. There should be continued support. Here's one thing that I get a lot of concerns with is their rep comes in and signs them up and then they never hear from them again ever. They can never ever get a hold of them after that either, kind of thing. You should have a direct line and you should have the ability where this is not someone that's in Timbuktu, where they can actually come down and see you face to face. If you got an emergency, you can call them and they can tackle that problem and address it either in person or right away on the phone and not through a chat. If you got to jump on a chat bot and communicate with a computer for 10 minutes before you get to somebody, that should be a major concern. Let's see here. You should have easy access to all of your information. Make sure you ask them that. What is my avenue? What is my capability of viewing all of my statements, my chargebacks? How many of you that have accounts have had a chargeback? But well, you don't have to say this. You've probably had a chargeback at some point. My other business, I get probably 4 or 5 a year. The great thing is, it's so awesome. They tell you if you want to, they'll send me a letter, and the letter shows up about 30 days later. And they say, if you want to fight this, that's great. You got to supply all this information, and the due date is in 3 days. So you should have a system set up for you where the second a chargeback happens, it notifies you via email or text or both. Real fast, if there are any questions in regards to that, or you want to just kind of get some clarification on your own business, I'd be happy to share with you and give you an idea of, maybe if you're just wondering if you're getting ripped off, I can tell you pretty quick. Meet me afterwards. I'll be around for just a little bit, but I really appreciate you guys' time, and I'm sorry that we didn't have the great presentation that was going to be here for you. So
Sorry about the projector, you guys. We came and we tried to get it set up. It's all set up really top notch for audio, but the visual we could not get to connect even with a third-party projector. So I apologize about this. And I love you, Jason, but sometimes I don't know what you're talking about. You know, like it's so I'm really sorry. But you guys, this is why when I met Jason, I was like, you have to come. You have to help me, you know, because I could tell not only was he knowledgeable about what he's doing, but he's honest. And he has helped us. I mean, he's been the most transparent about anything. If we're doing something and he's like, this is the best way to do it, then he's done that for us. And so it's a pleasure. You really are. Sure. So at least, hopefully this gets you thinking about your credit card processes and, you know, like awareness of some things that maybe you weren't aware of. And if you have, you know, questions, if you think I don't know what I'm doing, like myself, Jason is a great asset to help you do that. So thank you for presenting, Jason.